And good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Ritter. I am the president and CEO of the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association. And for the next hour, I'm your co-host. I say co-host because we're joined in studio, as always, today by producer Jim. Producer Jim, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
There we are. We're talking about music a little bit earlier, and you're going to find out what the musical theme is for today's show in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I promise Jim never lets us down. He's going to have something good. He's going to have something good for you. He's already got it queued up.
Something good for the Xers today.
He's got something queued up that you'll really appreciate and you'll really like. So hang around for nothing else for the next 10 minutes just to find out what he plays us out with. So I'm joined today in studio, in addition to producer Jim, by Kevin Klipfel, who is the Facilities and Programs Director from Bismarck Parks and Recreation. Kevin, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. This afternoon? Is this morning, Kevin? Good Lord. Thank you anyways for being here in studio.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's awesome. So here we are. I asked Kevin to be our guest today because, in case you haven't noticed, it is summertime outside. Birds are chirping.
Fish are jumping. The cotton is high.
There it is. He finished my song lyric for me. It's a good time to be outside in Bismarck-Mandan, and their Parks and Rec has just so many offerings, so many programs, so many services that we figured, you know what better to do than to have Kevin come in and talk about all the theory things that Parks and Rec has going on. So we're going to spend the better part of our hour today talking about Parks and Rec. But today, we're going to start off the show, as we always do, with kind of a rundown, a recap of the economic snapshot, the economy at a glance here in Bismarck-Mandan. Our organization, the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association, is the economic development shop, the economic development office, organization, what have you, for all of Bismarck-Mandan, Burlington County. And so what that really means is that we are trying to grow the economy of this community. And I think everyone agrees. It's been a good time to do what we do. We've seen the community grow. I mean, Kevin, you've been here for a little while now. I mean, you've seen how the community's changed in your time here. I've seen how it's changed in my time. And I can tell you it's going to continue to change. It's going to continue to grow despite low oil prices, despite low ag prices. We've got a very diverse economy. We've got a very healthy economy. And I think the numbers bear that out by the fact that if you look at the number of jobs, the number of people working right now in Bismarck-Mandan, Burlington County, Kevin, without looking at my sheet, which is right in front of you, if I had to ask you how many jobs you would think are in Bismarck-Mandan's economy right now, what would you say?
75,000.
How? Well, he was close. It's 74,100. I don't know how he did it, but he got close. And folks, so there are 74,100 jobs right now in our economy. That's good for a 2.7% unemployment rate. I mean, that's absurdly low. I mean, that's if you go back to your college econ classes, I think full employment was something about 4 or 5%, which meant at that point everybody who wanted to work, who could work, is in the workforce. And I suspect right now, Kevin, that workforce, I mean, how many full-time, part-time employees does Parks and Rec have at any given point?
You know, it changes throughout the year, Brian.
Okay.
In the peaks, we're probably close to 400 staff.
Wow.
Over the course of a year, we are about 1,000 employees, full and part-time.
So talk to me a little bit about how, so we're talking about a 2.7% unemployment rate. If we go back 1 year, I mean, that's the same unemployment rate. We know the workforce is bigger now, but if you look over the last 12 months, would you say it's been easier to find people now than it was 12 months ago? Is it harder to find people now than it was 12 months ago? I mean, what's your sense in the office?
You know, we're having a little bit better luck this summer than we were last summer. And again, like you said, summer's our peak time.
Yep.
And so we have to ramp up for a lot of different facilities that are online in the summer. We have our outdoor or our indoor facilities that are good all year. But we've seen the quantity of applications go up, which it just helps us with the quality of employees that we can hire.
So I think, what you've given me as a response I've heard from a lot of employers around here recently, they won't go so far as to say it's a good situation and it's easy to find people, but compared to where we were maybe 2-3 years ago, or even 12 months ago when we had an extremely difficult labor situation, a real employees market, it's certainly an improvement. And any improvement is noticeable.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, again, we're looking at 74,000 jobs. That's actually up from March of 16, which was 73,600. So the workforce is getting bigger. Unemployment rate dropped from March of 16 at 3.5 to 2.7 in April. So, again, things trending in the right direction. And, of course, Bismarck-Mandan being located here in North Dakota, you expect that to happen every year right around this time because of seasonality. I mean, they're just employers like Parks and Rec who get bigger during the summer. You've got contractors, construction, all those things that happen during the summer. They add bodies, so not altogether unexpected. Looking at now another indicator of the health of the economy, how much money is being spent. I mean, how much money is actually being distributed, collected, spent in Bismarck-Mandan's economy. And we use sales tax collections or taxable sales and purchases to really determine that. And I want to go back and look at 2014 versus 2015 because I will tell you that when retailers sometimes call us and ask about, hey, we want to bring a location to Bismarck-Mandan, they always want to know about sales. How are our competitors doing? How are other people doing in terms of sales? I think right now everyone would agree that things are going very well, but when you look at what's happening across the state with, again, low ag commodity prices, oil prices now, kind of fluctuating a little bit now, gotten better from where they were over the winter. People just assume, I think, that Bismarck-Mandan is automatically going to just see a huge decrease because oil isn't $120 anymore. Well, when you look at 2014's numbers in terms of how much money was spent between the two counties, our metro area, about $2.2 billion. So we're about a $2 billion economy. Now, consider for the fact that we just crossed over $1 billion in about 2005, and here we are 10 years later, and we've doubled the size of the economy. It's a pretty dramatic shift. But what I want to point out is that, okay, we're about $2.206 billion for 2014 in terms of all the dollars spent. 2015, when we started to see the impacts of some low oil prices, that number really didn't change. It was 2.14. I mean, so that's less than a 1% difference, really. And I think that's really a testament to the strength and the diversity of our economy and the fact that, the commodity prices have suffered, but we've got a lot of great things happening in our community, in our economy. And we've got jobs like at Bismarck Parks and Rec who are still paying, still working, and they're still spending money. So, Kevin, I think you've got some background in Dickinson. You're originally from, or you've worked in Dickinson?
I am originally from Bismarck. I was here for about 10 years. I left for about 10, and then I've been back for
you're back?
8.
And you were in Dickinson, correct, Kevin,
yes.
before this? Okay. So you've seen firsthand. I mean, of course, the boom, you were gone before the boom really hit, but I think in Dickinson there's always that boom bust mentality, isn't there? I mean, in terms of we've seen it happen before, we can see it happen again. Would you say it's accurate out there?
Yeah, exactly. That was, and when I moved to Dickinson, it was pretty surprising because everybody, that was the kind of impetus that everything was based on. They didn't want that bust to happen again, and so I think they're kind of the same way we are. Even though oil prices are down, I think they're probably still doing pretty well out there.
That's what we hear too. Just one other thing, we've got about a minute and a half before the break here, and I just want to talk about one other thing, and that's the Bismarck Airport. One thing that we hear from businesses in terms of what might be a competitive disadvantage for us, it really is the cost of air travel. And I want to commend Greg Howe with the Bismarck Airport, the Bismarck-Mandan Chamber of Commerce for their work in adding really new carriers over the last few years, because for a market our size, we've recently added Frontier back, we've added Allegiant flights, we've added American Airlines. And so when you look at passenger boardings in last year, 2015, the Bismarck Airport was one of only 2 airports in the state to add passengers. When you look at now this year, April of 16 versus April of 15, we're looking at almost 20,000 more passengers. I mean, year to date, we're looking at about 84,000 versus 62,000. I mean, so it's pretty remarkable in terms of how we've seen. I'm sorry, that's a typo. It's 84 versus 82. That didn't seem right, did it, Jim? It's 84 versus 82, but we're still good. So with that, we are going to play ourselves up for the first break. As promised, Jim has some 90s pop for you, and we'll be back here after the break on Super Talk 1270.
Right now, 73.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
Good morning, everyone. We're back here on the Dakota Housing Network on Super Talk 1270, and that, boys and girls, was the Cranberries. Jim, was that song called Dreams?
Dreams, yeah.
Dreams. Jim earlier compared that song to a Buddy Holly record.
The guitar work, yeah,
There
it's
it
very,
is.
very Buddy Holly-ish.
The musical theme for today's show is 90s pop, and so Jim will most likely spend the next 15 minutes not listening to what I say, but really just cruising YouTube trying to find better clips. And so we'll stick around, see how that plays out. But I'm joined today, my name is Brian Ritter, I'm with the BMDA, I'm your host today. And I'm joined today by Kevin Klipfel from Bismarck Parks and Recreation. And we're going to talk all things now, 45 minutes, Kevin, nonstop, blowing and going, all things Parks and Rec. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Lightning rounds. We're gonna, this next segment, we talked about, or you heard Kevin say in the first segment about really how many people or how big Parks and Rec is. I mean, in terms of people, Kevin, we're talking anywhere between 400 and 1,000 employees, depending upon seasonality and how many people you really cycle through. How many miles of trail, parks? I mean, you guys you're really an entity. I mean, you are an entity unto yourselves in terms of all the things that you manage. I mean, how big really is Parks and Rec?
I think we have a lot of things going on. You talk about our trails. You're talking over 50 miles of paved trails, and we have unpaved trails. That's probably one of our biggest recreational activities throughout the course of the year.
50 miles of trails?
Paved
trails.
Yes.
Wow.
50.
So we talked about the number of employees. We talked about trails, parks now. I mean, everybody, when you come to Bismarck and you buy a house, you build a house, everyone's looking to be by schools, be by parks. Now, I happen to live down in South Bismarck by Solheim School, and the new Southland Park was just dedicated. And that's kind of a new development in terms of those neighborhood parks from developers. Can you talk a little bit about how that's come to be and really where you see that going, Kevin?
I think it's just been a great thing for Bismarck as we've seen the growth over the last 4 to 5 years with the new park and open space ordinance that the district has worked with the city and the developers. I think that's just been a positive addition. I did the same thing when I moved back to Bismarck in 2009. I built my house across from a playground to school. I think people are looking for those trails and those parks to build their houses by and to be able to recreate in their backyard.
Well, absolutely, and I'm the same way. I mean, we're down in South Bismarck. My house literally is adjacent to one of those. I mean, some of those 50 miles of walking trails. You've got a park 2 blocks away, and so it really are those amenities people are looking for, and it's a big deal for business development, economic development, because again, we've got probably 2,400 open jobs in Bismarck-Mandan, Burley-Morton County right now. I mean, it's 2,400 open jobs. We're going to need some new bodies to fill those jobs. And so when people are coming to the community, and they have options now. Everyone's got options for where they want to be. What helps set our community apart? And certainly the parks and what Parks and Rec does helps set Bismarck-Mandan apart. And so we've got the new Southland Park. I think Chad Wachter in the district are working on a new park down in South Meadows as well, I believe.
Yes.
And again, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the ordinance in terms of what that means in terms of working together with the city, the developer, and parks, and what that really does.
Well, it just gives us the opportunity to work with those developers on the front end to be able to have that space available and ready. The park is there when the development goes in, which I think it helps everybody. They know what's going to be there, the park, the trail. Everybody can work from the front end and know what's there, and I think a lot of people are looking for those things.
Do you think sometimes, Kevin, that people just assume that playgrounds on schools are essentially parks? I mean, are parks too? Or they treat them like, almost parks properties because it's a playground. It's almost, it's like a park, and you guys have worked with Bismarck Public Schools so well over the last few years in terms of co-locating spaces and making sure facilities are lining up correctly. That's another great partnership for Parks and Rec.
Absolutely. We've worked with the school district on numerous different things, co-using facilities in the evenings for adult and youth programs. They use our facilities, but you hit it on the head. Those playgrounds, when school's out, they're there, and like I said, I live across the street from one. I see the use that it gets in the evening because that's when I'm around, but I know it's used all day, but then I also know it's used all evening too.
Now, in terms of, you mentioned schools out. And yeah, absolutely. Here we are in the middle of June. I think kids are just getting their stride now for the summer, been out for a couple of weeks. And what does that mean? It means pools. We talked about that before the show even started, Kevin. Now we've got Parks and Rec has made a tremendous investment in outdoor pools recently between the Elks and Hillside. We want to talk about how those facilities are utilized and what you see in the horizon for our pools.
Our pool use has been great. We have 3 outdoor pools in Bismarck. We have Wachter Wave Pool, we have the Elks Aquatic Complex, and now the newly renovated Hillside Aquatic Complex. They're busy facilities. People want to be outdoors in Bismarck and North Dakota in the summer, and we try to provide those opportunities.
I've been really impressed by what Parks and Rec has done with our pools. As you've renovated and you've remodeled, especially it started at the Elks and now at Hillside, it's not just a 4-foot deep hole filled with water and just with concrete on all 4 sides. We've got splash parks. We've got slides. I've got girls who are, school age and younger, and they love splash parks, and that's what we love going to the Elks. You've got those things, and I've really been impressed by the willingness to adapt and those new facilities. And I think you're seeing it just the way they're utilized. There have been times I've driven by Hillside Park, and the line is wrapped around the door. I mean, people are just waiting to get in.
Oh, absolutely. Our pools in 2014, we had about 32,000 people go through our 3 outdoor pools.
Wow.
After the renovation, and we opened Hillside, the new Hillside complex in 2015, that pool alone had almost as much traffic as we had on all 3 pools the year before. So it's been very popular. People like like you talked about, they like the slides, they like the zero depth, they like the play features in the water. The splash pad over at Elks is a very popular piece. Those are the things people want now. They aren't looking for a lap lane pool anymore. But we've got the lap lanes up at Hillside. All 3 of our outdoor pools have a big lesson component also in the mornings, and that's a big part of that.
Another part of summer and living in Bismarck-Mandan is camping. I'm not part of that. I prefer to stay in places that have cable at all times. But camping is certainly a big deal around here. And again, having grown up and now living in South Bismarck, every Friday afternoon, I see the traffic down South Washington, head down to Sibley. You see it all around Bismarck-Mandan. There are camping spots around Bismarck-Mandan here, and there are camping spots around Bismarck right close to the city. And talk about a little bit about Sibley, Kevin.
General Sibley Park, like you said, straight out on South Washington, is a campground that we continue to work on. It's a great place. Weekends are always busy. Right now, I think most of the weekends, the campsites are pretty full through the 4th of July. But as people get closer, those sites will fill up. But weekends, it's very popular. I know a lot of people that they'll park their camper down there Thursday night. They like the option to be able to jump back into town, kids' activities, something else going on, forgot something at the grocery store. But it's just a place to get away for a while. And then on the north end of town, we have Eagles Park, which is more of a primitive campground, but becoming more and more known, more and more popular for groups and people to camp up there too.
Kevin, our listeners can't see my face when you said Eagles Park, obviously, but you can. Talk to me a little bit more about Eagles Park and where it's at and what features that has to offer.
It's a very primitive campground that's on the north end of town that we have been managing for a few years, and it just gives us another option for more primitive campground. We've been working on improving that facility, but it's owned by the Eagles Club, and then we've been managing it.
So in terms of, take a little off script here, but you talked about Sibley a little bit earlier here. Now, there's also plans for our State Parks and Recreation Department to develop a day park kind of in that same neighborhood along the Missouri River. And obviously, that's not a Parks and Rec venture, but in your mind, you see that as complementary with what's already happened at Sibley Park?
Absolutely. I see, some of the things that I've heard, they're going to have trails, and they're going to have some interpretive stuff, some day use. And I hope people that are using Sibley maybe on a camping basis that'll, buzz across there. Maybe we can get some trail connections, things that match up together, that people can just walk over there for the day while they're camping at Sibley, utilize both facilities.
So now let's also talk about, we've talked about camping, we've talked about the pools, summer stuff like that. But real quickly, Parks and Recreation in terms of kids' activities during the daytime. Obviously you've got the BLAST program during the school year, but Parks and Rec also has some day activities for kids, school-age kids during the summer, correct?
Absolutely. One of our people call it Summer Blast, but it's called their activity center program in the summer. It's a little bit different, but it's a day program. It's really very similar. It's based in the schools. Mm-hmm. It's an activity-based program that kids can go from 7:30 in the morning till 5:15 in the afternoon. It provides kids an opportunity, a safe place to go. Parents can put their kids in this program. It's activity-based. I know my kids, they don't mind staying home now, but they'd much rather hang out and do some things with their friends, and that's what it's all about. Is it's an activity-based program that they can hang out with their friends during the day.
Now, also we talked about partnerships, and obviously Parks and Rec and Bismarck Public Schools have had a long time, very strong partnership in terms of facilities. When it comes to programming, too, there's also, I just learned about this recently, during the summer at some parks around Bismarck-Mandan, there's a lunch program, if I understand correctly, that I don't know that's limited to simply low-income or strictly low-income students, but there is a partnership between BPS and Parks and Rec to offer kids free lunch at some of the parks during the course of the summer. Am I right, Kevin?
Yes, they use some of our facilities to distribute some lunches. generally are in lower income areas based on income. The lunches it provides the kids an opportunity to have some lunch in the summer. That
Absolutely.
Through the school district they can get lunch during the day, and there's the backpack program for the weekends. But obviously there's a need in our community for a program like this to make sure those kids have some food.
So we're going to go back here after the break. Jim has got another musical outplay for us here.
Spin Doctors.
Here we go. You'll be back in the break after 12 on Super Talk 1270.
Right now, 73.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
All right, and we're back here on the Dakota Housing Network. You listen to Super Talk 1270 AM. My name is Brian Ritter. I'm with the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association. I am joined today in studio by Kevin Klipfel from Bismarck Parks and Rec and our DJ, producer Jim. What was that last song, Jim?
What, the New Radicals?
I haven't heard that song ever. See? Yeah. You're welcome, everyone, that you can get this blast from the past, courtesy of Super Talk 1270.
90s alt rock is what we're doing here today.
We're flushing the format
Yeah.
for the last half hour. As I said, I'm joined in the studio today by Kevin Klipfel. He's with Bismarck Parks and Rec. He's Facilities and Program Director, and we've been talking about, in fact, over the break, just talking about the demand for services. And we figured with summer coming up and all things happening in Bismarck, it'd be great to have Kevin and Parks and Rec here to talk about what they're working on. And we've talked a lot about camping, we've talked about pools, but when you think about summer, you think about baseball. I mean, and boy, the way our community's grown, Kevin, I mean, swimming lessons aren't the only thing that are filling up. I mean, our youth baseball programs have to just be packed to the rafters.
Oh, absolutely. Our ball diamonds are stretched to the limit. It starts in the spring with high school. You talk high school baseball, you talk Bismarck youth baseball, you talk Bismarck youth fast pitch. Then you start talking men's and women's adult softball. Then you get into the summer program with our youth program that starts up. They're busy.
You know, and before the show, Kevin and I were talking about baseball and softball and just the demand for diamonds. And as Kevin mentioned, you've got men's softball, women's softball, youth baseball, and now in a relatively recent development over the last few years, now you have girls fast pitch softball. And as someone who's grown up here, and Kevin's from Bismarck as well, fast pitch softball really wasn't part of life in Bismarck really until the last few years. And now you look at the way that program has grown, and having a daughter and myself in the program right now, I can attest to the demand and the fact that those diamonds are stretched to the max. And right now, Parks and Rec, Kevin, I was understanding, you've always got ongoing projects. We've built new diamonds down at Cottonwood, worked with Bismarck Youth Baseball to build some fields over by Shiloh, but it's an ongoing process, is it not?
Absolutely. We're always discussing with the groups, and that's right now is probably one of the issues that we're talking about is the demand for diamond space in the spring.
We talk a little bit about the partnerships, Kevin, because being the quote-unquote manager for our softball team, you go to some of those meetings, and of course, those private associations pay dues, and they partner with Parks and Rec. So if men's softball needs more diamonds, like we did with Cottonwood, the South Diamonds, well, they partner with you to get those diamonds built. You've got numerous partnerships with probably an untold number of user groups out there. Is that something that you've really worked to cultivate, Kevin, is those partnerships, those user groups, and working together on new facilities?
Without our partnerships, we aren't what we are today. That's a huge part of it. You hit it on the head. We've been working with the softball groups, arts groups, you name it, the different user groups. I think we have over 300 different agreements with groups to run different things. And we don't do everything, but we want to be a part of just about everything. And so we try to help facilitate. We might be a facility manager for one. We might run a program in another area. But like you said, without those groups, we can't get these projects done.
Kevin, now we talked about, before the show started, we were talking a little bit about baseball and softball, but we talked about volleyball. And you ran some numbers by me in terms of just volleyball teams from the winter and then in the summer down by Pioneer Park or Saratoga or wherever else. Just explain to our listeners how big that one sport is.
Well, yeah, you talk about it. I think we have some of the biggest adult sport leagues in the state. I know we do. And with volleyball, we're pushing 275 to 300 teams in the winter. Again, we use one of our facilities, the Memorial Building, but we're in school gyms in the winter. In the summer, we have sand volleyball courts across town, Pioneer Park, Saratoga Park. Then we have our two main locations, and then we have sand volleyball courts at Kiwanis, Optimus Park, and so we're all over town. But with our leagues, the high school league, the adult leagues, and with another group, that church league, we have over 400 sand volleyball teams playing this summer.
So roughly, so 400 teams. We're going to say, 7 to 8 people on a team generally. I mean, not much bigger than that.
Yeah.
So we're talking thousands of people.
Yeah, you're talking about 3,000 people just playing sand volleyball.
So you tack on those thousands of people, then you talk about baseball, then you talk about softball. And so if we're looking at a population in the city of Bismarck alone of pushing 70, 80,000 people, all of a sudden now, I mean, you look at a good majority of those residents are utilizing your programs in some form or fashion, and we've only talked about 3 sports.
Absolutely.
We've only talked about 3 sports. Now, what about, when we were talking about the agenda for today's show, you had another recommendation, fun runs. Okay. Again, listeners can't see this. I'm not your ideal target for a fun run, but we were at a walk for the Cystic Fibrosis Association on Saturday, and it started at Pioneer Park, and of course, 50 miles of paved trails. We've got a great community for fun runs, for benefit walks, things like that. Have you seen that? Have you seen that profile, that utilization grow recently? I mean, just in terms of how people are utilizing it.
Absolutely. It seems like we get more and more requests for people to run road races, fun runs, non-competitive, competitive walks, whatever they may be on our trail system. And it's just a credit to the people that have been planning these things from way before I got here, and as our leadership now, we just continue to try to add trails throughout the community, because it just creates another activity that people can do.
So we've talked about camping, we've talked about pools, baseball, softball, fun runs, volleyball, but again, Parks and Rec is much bigger than just those activities. And we've talked a lot about summer stuff, but all year round, Bismarck Parks and Rec is busy. You guys have activities 24/7, 365. What else haven't we talked about so far, Kevin? I mean, what's another summer activity or something you see growing utilization in the summer that we haven't touched on yet?
We've hit on most of the things. I think, our activity centers and other popular programs. Safety Village is a great program. It's a program we took over years ago because another group dropped it, wasn't able to sustain it anymore. But it's a safety program for 5 and 6-year-olds. It's, they talk about all kinds of safety with the police department, the fire department, poison control, traffic safety, riding your bike, stranger danger, all those kinds of things that you can put it all in one quick little 2-week session and teach young kids how to be safe.
And that's true. I mean, that's one that just went over my head, but had a daughter that just went through that program last summer, and it's tremendous. It held up there at the Gateway to Science Center up in North Bismarck, and really introduces kids to those basic safety concepts. And those are things that, regardless of how big the community is or how small the community is, just basic personal safety concepts that should be known. And Parks and Rec, again, maybe that doesn't fit the mold of what most people expect from a Parks and Recreation department, but still an extremely valuable service. Now, one sport we haven't talked about and eats up maybe the most real estate in Bismarck-Mandan is golfing. We didn't talk about it because I don't golf, so all you do, we'll cover it now, but I'm just doing it, just for you. But golf, we're talking about growing up here, free junior golf. I mean, Tuesdays was Riverwood, Thursday was Tom O'Leary
And Pebble Creek.
And Pebble Creek now. So the utilization of our golf courses, again, having the short season that we do, I know people are itching to get on the course as soon as humanly possible, and they'll play until it's snowing. But how have you seen? Talk about Parks and Rec's role in golfing and how you've seen it grow.
Golf is a very popular activity. We had a great spring starting out. There's a lot of people that like to golf. Every course that we have in Bismarck is a little bit different, so we have a different course for the different type of golfer, the different person that wants to get there and golf. Junior golf lessons, like we talked about, is another very popular program. Partnering with Dakota Junior Golf has helped us expand and just create a really good program. And obviously, those golfers are the future of our golf courses in the future is training those people or educating, teaching those kids how to golf, what to do. And then again, I was up at Pebble Creek yesterday. They had an event called the Drive, Chip, and Putt that came into town. Kids could qualify for regional and national events. So
kind of like punt, pass, and kick?
punt, pass, and kick, pitch, hit, and run. Every group's got it. It's just a golf event, and it was great to see those young people up there dressed to the nines, teeing off, hitting drives, chipping, putting, and how talented they are at such a young age.
So, in the 8-9 years that you've been here now, working for Parks and Rec, Kevin, have you seen the utilization of those golf courses? Those numbers have grown every single year, haven't they? Or is it dependent upon the weather?
It's really weather dependent. We had the flood back a few years, which affected our courses. It really just shifts what we can do. But we're pretty steady as far as the number of rounds we have from year to year. But there's other golf courses in town. I think everybody's doing real well.
Now, when it comes to golf, I think everyone knows. Okay, well, you got a golf course, but there is the ability, as we talked about, to have actual lessons. That's part of Parks programming too. Is that if you've got a child, you talked about the event yesterday, but if you've got a child and you want to get them engaged in golf, it's not just I got to find time to go do 18 with them and teach them. There are golf lessons, right? For kids.
Absolutely, they start out at 5-6 years old and get into the more advanced levels as depending on the level of your need.
So when it comes to some of those services, some of those offerings that you have that maybe aren't as well known, what's the best way for residents of Bismarck to figure out what is available? What can they register for? I know you guys send out the catalog every spring and fall and do those things, but is it the website? Is it just them stopping in? How do you learn more if I have that itch?
Well, I think everybody, you talk about our activity schedule, comes out 3 times a year. Our website is probably the most up-to-date information. We try to keep that as up-to-date as we can with what's going on or what's coming up. I think once you've been around for a year and you know those publications or the websites are available, then it kind of gives you a leg up on what's going on. But that's a great place because it's not only our activities, it's a lot of our partner activities are in those areas.
And Kevin, the website for those listeners who aren't familiar with it is
www.bisparks.org. That's BISPARKS.org.
I can, as someone who utilizes that website pretty often, I can tell you it's very easy to navigate, very easy to find whatever you need. So I would encourage you to take a minute and go visit. But that is going to be the end of our segment now. And again, Jim is going to continue with our 90s alt-rock theme with I don't know what he's got planned.
Bittersweet Symphony.
Here we go on Super Talk 1270.
Right now, 77.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. supertalk1270.com.
We're back here after the break. My name is Brian Ritter. I am your host today on Super Talk 1270 in the Dakota Housing Network, and I promise you this is not a college radio station. This is not an alt-rock station. It's our producer's Jim's choice in music. It's his taste in music. It's 90s alt-rock.
Andy, are you goofing on Elvis? Hey, baby.
This is for those of you who don't, this is REM. And so that continues with our 90s musical theme. But we're back here in studio, as always, joined by our producer Jim and Kevin Klipfel today, who is with Bismarck Parks and Recreation. And for the last 15 minutes today, Kevin, we're going to talk about events because we've talked about all the great program. Well, not all, some of the great programming that Parks and Rec has to offer. And again, if you're curious about anything, head to the website at www.bisparks.com or .org. Kevin, he gave me a dirty look like, don't say com, they'll never find it. bisparks.org. But Kevin was telling me even before the show, we've got a few cool events coming to town. One of them being the 2016 Central Plains Regional Baseball Tournament. Kevin, we hosted the event last year as well. Coming back again for year 2. Tell our listeners what that entails, what that's all about.
That is a regional baseball tournament. The winner will qualify for the World Series in Shelby, North Carolina in August. But we'll have 8 teams. Our local team, the Bismarck Governors, will be in. We'll have 2 teams from Minnesota, 2 from Nebraska, South Dakota, and Iowa, along with the state champion from North Dakota. And it's just a great event. We had it last year. It's great baseball. A lot of when you get to the level of competition that you have at a regional tournament, you have a lot of college level and potentially pro athletes in those groups. You have a lot of scouts, a lot of college coaches looking at the players in those events.
Now, Kevin, that tournament also takes place at another newly renovated facility in South Bismarck, the Bismarck Municipal Baseball Field.
Yes.
Now that's just, again, recently renovated, and as someone who has worked at that facility, played at that facility, I mean, it is a night and day difference. I mean, it's almost like when the Diamond got turned around. It's just a new facility. Tell our listeners about what's happened there recently.
You know, our renovation last year was our first full year of using municipal ballpark since the renovation. We have a new grandstand, a canopy over the grandstand. We moved the grandstand closer to the field. The sight lines are better. The dugouts are into the ground, so everybody can get a real good view of the stadium. New restrooms, new concession stand. We have a practice facility out right on front there on the back of the stadium, which is a great addition to that facility. And, that's helped us bring these events into town. That's the reason why the Central Plains, one of the reasons why we were able to bring that event. And then next year starting, the Northwoods League team will be starting operation in 2017.
Now, for those of you who might not have known or seen recently, the Northwoods League is a wood bat college league, short season league, that attracts some of the best college talent from around the country. In fact, they boast some pretty high-profile Major League alumni from the Northwoods League. We have a local ownership group who's worked with Parks and Rec and the league to bring a team here starting play in 2017. And in fact, right now there's a contest to name the team. And so if you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, or the internet, go to bismarckbaseballisback.com, and you can go there and submit your entry for what the team should be called. I think you can also probably find it through the Parks and Recreation's website at bismarck.org. But again, you look at the tremendous success of the Bismarck Bobcats. I mean, not many minor league teams like them go for 20 years like they have.
Absolutely.
The Northwoods League, again, offers a very high caliber baseball, as Kevin said, and they started again in 2017, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they will play their home games at Bismarck Municipal Baseball Diamond.
Yep, we had the Northwoods League group in town again on Monday. Probably so they were on the news a little bit, and talking about the name the team contest. Just again, continuing preparations for the 2017 season.
Now, totally going a different direction now. When you sent me some ideas for our show today, Kevin, you put geocaching. I'm not going to lie to you. I went online and I looked it up because I didn't know what it was. Still don't really know what it is, but maybe you could take a minute and tell our listeners what is geocaching, if I'm saying it right, and what does Parks and Rec do for it?
I was the same way a few years back when somebody said there's geocaching sites in the park district in some of our parks, and had a couple people that I knew that were into this into geocaching, and basically it's using GPS or global positioning to find different caches is what they call them. There's actually the North Dakota group is out of Sibley, and they're helping us kick off. We have our own 12 caches now that we've hidden in our parks, and so they use GPS to find these locations. A lot of them are just small little, might be a Rubbermaid Tupperware that has a sticker in it that you can take because you found that cache. You can put your name in the log in that location and then put it back so that the next person can find it.
You know what? You just blew my mind, Kevin. Okay, I have not heard of this before. That's my own ignorance, but you know what? It must be popular, and again, that's another one of those services activities that Parks and Rec does that probably most people don't understand or know about.
Well, absolutely. We have a lot of it. You see more of these activities that people want to be able to do on their own time. Talk walking or riding bike or rollerblading on a trail. Geocaching is something you can do with your family. It's not something that you have to be scheduled for. You can just go out and do it, and it's a fun kind of, I'll say it's a laid-back activity.
Now, of course, one of the biggest events of any summer in any community is really July 4th, and that's no different here in Bismarck and Mandan. July 4th, I mean, the entire July celebration, I know Parks and Rec has got some things planned for the month of July, in and around the holiday and beyond that. Maybe talk a little bit more about what you've got on the agenda for that.
Well, July is National Recreation and Park Association Month, so it's something that we do as an agency that we want to promote Parks and Recreation in July. Obviously, it's a busy month for a lot of different things. There's a lot of events going on, baseball games, the parade, rodeos, not just things that we do, but we have a photo contest that we have in July. We try to get people out into our parks, into our facilities, take pictures of them, their family, their friends, participating on our facilities, and we like to use those photos down the road in publications and stuff. So it's kind of a win-win. We get good photographs, and people get a chance and an opportunity to maybe win some prizes.
Now, not a July event, but here in the end of June, At this time next week, I suspect that a lot of Bismarck Parks and Recreation's efforts will be dedicated towards preparing for the McQuaid softball tournament.
Absolutely.
Now, Kevin, McQuaid's has to be one of the biggest events that Parks and Rec participates in or facilitates. What do you want to? I mean, I know obviously the Sam McQuaid charity softball tournament. Folks at McQuaid's do a great job organizing it, but certainly they're utilizing every single square inch of facility that you have to offer for softball diamonds.
Yes, they're using all the softball diamonds in Bismarck and Mandan. I mean, the board, the McQuaid's tournament committee does a great job of organizing and putting on the event. Our maintenance staff is instrumental in putting this on because that's the impetus of that. They're getting those fields ready, getting those complexes ready, keeping them looking good throughout the weekend. And then, as you know, in the last couple of years, we've always had some rain. It seems like we have a rain event every year, which puts a lot more stress on our staff. But they do a wonderful job of maintaining those facilities, and it's a great event for Bismarck-Mandan.
Folks, take it from someone who's lived here for my entire life. McQuaid's is just one of those weekends where you know something is going on. The entire city is different. The entire community, not just Bismarck, obviously Bismarck-Mandan. And it starts, I mean, it's going to probably start all next week, but really, I mean, Friday night, you're going to start off here. The Wounded Warriors are back in town. We've got home run hitting contests, things like that. Going to have games all Friday night down at Cottonwood, over in Mandan, down at Clem Kelly, all day Saturday, and damn near all day Sunday. And so we're going to have all these things. Again, one of the community's biggest events. And if it wasn't for the partnerships you talked about earlier, wasn't for the facilities that you've just talked about, I mean, we couldn't host that event. We couldn't host it.
No, it's that's part of it is because we have the number of fields, because we've done the projects with the softball association, because we work with the tournament committee. And that's how we get this event, or keep this event, and keep it growing in Bismarck-Mandan. Committee said 460 teams. That's a lot of bodies in town playing softball and having fun.
And a lot of and certainly a lot of local teams. I mean, don't want to understate that impact, but it's a lot of out of town teams, and certainly we're going to see the impact in the hotels. We're going to see them in the stores. We're going to see them in the restaurants, and again, first and foremost, we're going to see them at your facilities. So, kudos to you and your team for everything you do. We've got 2 minutes left here, and I want to thank Kevin for agreeing to be my guest today. Again, here we are. Summer's just getting started for a lot of us. Parks and Rec has so much to offer. You guys do such a great job for our community. You do such a great job helping maintain and enhance that quality of life. Kevin, thank you for everything that you guys do. And for our listeners, they want to learn more. What's the best way for them to get involved?
Check out our website. It's got all the information about the district. If you're looking for a specific activity or an event, you can find it on there. If you can't, give us a call and we'll get you in the right direction.
Remember, that website that Kevin's talking about is www.bizparks.org. That's org, not com. Don't make the same mistake I did. So again, Kevin, thank you so much for being our guest this morning and for everything that you and Parks and Rec do for our community. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, Jim, our show is over for today. Made it through another hour without screwing up. And you were going to play us off, and we're going to end our day with one more 90s pop song.
Well, actually, it's our theme.
It's our theme. We're not even. Well, you got the last of the 90s pop song, then, folks. Thanks for joining us today on Super Talk 1270 and the Dakota Housing Network. Have a great day.